Okay. Quick video today, no editing, no script, just my pure raw thoughts about the newest Intervallo, because it left quite an impression on me and I just wanted to share my thoughts real quick. So for context, my first experience with the Intervallo was on Layhang Gaming's stream, go check him out, link in the description. And at the time I had a lot of fun with the update. Pretty much every sinner got some sort of funny interaction and some screen time. Even my boy Gregor, who I think Kim Ji-hoon sometimes just completely forgets about, gets a lot here. Okay, not a lot, but still pretty good Gregtent, all things considered. And the other shenanigans that happen in the CGs are also really funny. The most absurd thing is that Shichun becomes like the most absurd fucking character in the whole lore just in a month. Like, I genuinely believe that she can solo any boss. Like, modders get on that. But okay, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall here. Gotta structure this a bit. Okay, so we're gonna start with the positives here. And one of the more apparent positives, at least for me, is the character development of the sinners. Or at least their character reinforcement. And I guess let's go in sooner order. Starting with Yi-sang. And Yi-sang didn't really show development, more like a retrospection into his previous development past Count of 4. But it is pretty funny when his unique OST just plays when he's the focus of the scene. That's a pretty funny gag, and I hope it continues forward. Faust is slowly being revealed as more of a fraud, and we've known that since the warp incident, but now we see more of her efforts to actually do something on her own, and not rely on the Faust chord or Gesellschaft or whatever. And she's trying, and it's pretty cute. Dawn is finding more ways to be a mischievous gremlin. Like, her scene with Sinclair is pretty funny at the start. Since she's lucid, she has some kind of degree of the embarrassment and didn't really want to be the reason everything is messed up during that meeting. And so she just goes Sinclair into it, and it's really funny. And also during her lessons, there's given a reason as to why she is so infatuated with the Fixers. Well, beyond reaching her dream, that is. Like the historical value that their tales provide, and the moral values as well. And that's all really cool and cute. Merceau showing again that he has a brain beyond, like, command me manager. He's been consistently improving ever since, like, Canto 3, I believe. Heathcliff is being shown as more tolerant towards, like, silly stuff like his huge hammer, and in general suppressing his hot-headed nature. Ishmael, there's a weird comment that she's like obsessive over stuff, but we don't really see that in the story. Well, beyond the obvious like comparison. But yeah, the D&D session was really cool. I probably one of my favorite parts in the Intervallo. Kim Ji-hoon shows yet again his infatuation with board games. Rodion gets like one line that hints at some character depth, but beyond that, it's just silliness. At least that's what I noticed. Otis doesn't really get much in Intervallo, but she already had some moments in Canto 7 and the Nocturnal Sweeping. And also, I believe in Canto 8, there was some moment with her that was pretty good. So I guess her showing again that she's a good commander is serviceable. And Gregor, as I already told, shows some of his war PTSD and how it affects him. Some actual serious moments with him. And I was kind of worried that he'll permanently become one of the character reliefs in the group. But no, it's all good. And I skipped a couple of sinners because their cases are a bit more special in my opinion. So I'll get to them in a future section, don't worry about it. A second undisputed positive, at least for me, is all the Shichun content. While previously she was more of a stuck-up, no-fun, tsundere-like sister to Honbu, here she's a lot more positive and fun-loving and shows a lot of her more cute aspects. And the way how she earnestly tries to learn everything that the sinners are trying to teach her, it's very endearing and somewhat inspiring even. At the end, when you fight the Night Drifter and then get her as an ally on your own team, you're really starting to have some pride in how she grew and some pride in how you raised her as well. And honestly, some of the moments with the Night Drifter are kind of on the level of a Kanto in their quality, which is kind of crazy to think about. At the end of the story, I really felt like Shichun deserved the title of Family Hierarch. Can't wait to see her again in like War with the Wings with Q Corp or like in a bog gag at least. That would be really cool. And I think that's all of the objective positives that I want to mention. Or at least they're objective to me, which make them subjective, or who cares, honestly. It's what I enjoyed. Now, let's get onto the more questionable parts of the Intervallo. We will resume with the remaining three sinners that I didn't mention. The first one being Sinclair. And Sinclair was pretty good in this Intervallo. He got a lot of on-screen development that is verbatim just stated that he doesn't stutter as much. He's more confident, he's more insightful, he's got the sauce. We even got some teases for the mark as well. And that's all well and good, but there's one potential problem here. You see, the main meta reason why Sinclair is studying alongside Chichun is because if he didn't, then the Intervallo would be pretty much filler. We'd get to teach Chichun some stuff and never see her for the foreseeable future, while our company doesn't get any development whatsoever. I mean, our company does get some of it, but it would still feel pretty unimpactful. So that's why we have Sinclair as a vessel of change, I guess. He'll be the character that will remind us of the changes that this Intervallo had introduced. And I got no problems with that, don't get me wrong, it's all well and good. But the thing that is questionable is that Sinclair will probably not get any buffs in gameplay. There's a fight in the Intervallo where Sinclair gets 5 unbreakable coins as well as some unique passives, which kinda should signify his change as a fighter, but this change will probably not reflect in his base Sinner ID, which is a bit underwhelming considering how Project Moon cares about ludonarrative synchronicity or whatever people call it. The point I'm trying to make is that Kim Ji-hoon really likes to tie in story and gameplay together, and this opportunity of buffing one of the base Sinner IDs to reflect their growth is just gonna be missed, ultimately. But okay, if you think about it, this is kind of a nitpick that doesn't really affect anyone or anything, so whatever. Another potential kind of maybe problematic sinner is Honlu. Despite this Intervallo happening right after the events of Kanto 8, Honlu gets only like 2 small moments that show his growth past those events, and that's his little retort against the big sister antagonist, I don't remember her name, and his conversation with Bao Chai. But considering that this Intervallo gives spotlight to all the sinners, Honlu doesn't really stand out. I take a little bit of an issue with this because previous Kanto sinner, Don Quixote, did get a huge moment to herself in the checkup Intervallo that happened right after Kanto 7. And if we go way back in the SEA Intervallo, Yi-san got several huge moments to himself that really showed his character growth. A good addition to this Intervallo would be kind of like a big brother-sister moment. Something akin to that CG with Little Shichun and Kid Bayu. But honestly, it's not a new thing where Kanto Sinner gets a little bit sidelined right after their Kanto. I think Heathcliff experienced something similar, but still I would have loved to see more of that bond that Shichun and Honbu used to share and try to rekindle between each other. And last, and this is the biggest one probably, is Ryoshu. And this has to do with the ending of the Intervallo where she kind of vaguely looks into the distance and there's an offhand comment about her humming a melody. And in the teaching event there's also another hint that she's a good mother because she's very good with kids. Not like we've had a billion references to her motherhood before that, but okay. What I'm getting at here is that there's no real connective tissue that this Intervallo should have with Kanto 9. Pretty much every other Intervallo that happened before a Sinner's Kanto had something like that. Hell's Chicken and Samjo, SEA and Ishmael Tweaking, Yield My Flesh to Claim Their Bones and T-Corp, Murder Only Warp Express and Blood Fiends, and finally Nocturnal Sweeping and Jashu. But with Spring Cultivation, there's basically nothing. It's just Shishun saying, bye-bye, but by the way, you don't have Mephistopheles here, so I guess you gotta stay here for an undetermined period of time. And the reason why this Intervallo is so open-ended, but kind of in a bad way, is because probably of the Arknights collab, because we don't know the degree of canonicity it will have on a Project Mood universe, and the possibility of a second Intervallo in case Canto 9 gets delayed, which honestly hurts and is a genuine flaw with the Intervallo, but not necessarily Hiroshu's character itself. But still, if this connective tissue was present, Hiroshu's character would have to react to it. And that's a missed opportunity, but I understand why it had to happen this way. The other questionable thing is the minigame. It's mid. And mid in the sense that it's average, not that it's bad. Despite it being pretty simple and really easy unless you're trying to fail, the minigame does its job okay. It's not something that I'd play on a regular basis, more like 1, 2, maybe 3 times. But beyond that, it's probably gonna be a piece of content that people will forget in a couple of months, which is pretty bad, but honestly, what can you do? The only slightly challenging aspect of the minigame is raising all the stats to 800, because that is the requirement for the true ending of the final fight. I hope that the minigame gets expanded upon in a bug gag or something, and the precedent it sets for future Limbus content is positive overall. The minigame is largely propped up by the funny CGs of the Intervallo, and by itself is okay. Now here come the aspects of the Intervallo that I'm not really sure how to think about. They have their own positives for me, but some parts of the player base seem to think otherwise. You might know what I'm talking about. Yep, it's the 2 new Heisho that we got, Kiev Claire and Uma Sang. And no, I'm not calling him Cock Claire, I don't care. Now, I have my own issues with Kiev Claire on how he is the 4th burn ID for Sinclair or the 3rd rupture ID for Sinclair. Kim Ji-hoon, give us Charge Sinclair, please. But my gripes aside, Kiev Claire looks really good. He's literally doing Melania's waterfowl dance, but red. And I didn't even use him yet, nor Umasang. But honestly, QC Claire might be one of my favorite IDs of all time. Yep, I know, a little bit premature-ish, and I'll test him out eventually, but damn is he cool. But okay, enough me gushing. These 2 IDs are in this questionable category because I didn't use them, but I know there is a kind of negative sentiment in some parts of the community because both of these IDs are largely rupture count negative. And while KFC Claire is free, so it doesn't really matter that much for him, Umasang being an event extraction ID, that's pretty disappointing. If you want to run him in a Heishu team and still care about rupture count, it's pretty much mandatory to have Dimension Shredder, and even with it, the rupture count doesn't look that good. And he also seemingly has trouble with activating his skill 3-2. Some people even suggested not using his skill 3-2 ever because he loses his line breaker buffs. All of these are pointing to a pretty confusing design, especially regarding an adept Heisho, so it's pretty obvious that the culprit of all these decisions is Malfaust. She unfortunately had become the 2nd Talisman Sinclair. The whole status effects balancing is pretty much revolving around her. The new Heishos aren't getting any death rights, they're not getting enough speed to trigger death right haste. Gia Ishmael's kit is being fed breadcrumbs. I can talk on and on about the problems of balancing and stuff, but honestly, I don't really care. These 2 IDs look really good, and I want to see Horse Sang turn into, well, a horse. And KFC Claire is really cool, so I'm gonna use him in my burn team probably, regardless if he's good at applying burn or whatever. I know these IDs are in some ways not what you were waiting for, but still, if you feel like these IDs are really cool and you really want to use them despite what they do in their kits, just use them. It's honestly no big deal, and this is coming from a certified Heisho hater like myself. Play however you want. This game isn't difficult enough to justify running only meta. But okay, another thing that the fanbase I feel is a little bit torn on are the fights. or specifically the Way fight. And honestly, this is another bamboo hatted Kim situation. The boss gets insanely strong if he wins a couple of clashes turn 1, he has insane damage potential because all of his skills are negative coin, and he can do quite nutty AoE damage. But for me, he was, in terms of difficulty, just right. Now, granted, I was using a charge team, which is not particularly powerful as of this moment. And I had a lot of deaths in my fight, and I finished it on like turn 18. I don't claim to be a master of the game or know every game mechanics, so I might have done better if I was better. But all in all, I think the difficulty was pretty decent. Not Layhang level or anything, but pretty decent. But I already see some people struggling with the fight and just using Superbia Fluid Sac to win it. And I do think that this is just a crutch. But you know, you do you, it's not my cup of tea personally, but whatever works, right? It remains to be seen if Wei Sang will become a future wall for newcomers. And I sincerely hope that Kim Ji-hoon isn't considering nerfing it in any way. But I guess he would have nerfed it already if he did consider it at some point. So, whatever. The thing is that I liked the fight, okay? And the other fights were good as well, and the Night Drifter was pretty good. I surprisingly was struggling with him a little bit, but I passed him on first try, so no worries. And his character is really good, like such a glow up from Kanto 8, honestly. But yeah, I guess this is all I wanted to say about the Intervallo. It's pretty silly. In the first half, really reminds me of Hell's Chicken with the amount of sinner interactions. And the second half brings a little edge that Limbus usually has in its story chapters. So yeah, I think that the Intervallo, is, for me at least, is like in the top 3 at least. Right alongside Nocturnal Sweeping and Time Killing Time. For me, they're interchangeable in their placements, so one day I would say, oh, my favorite is Nocturnal Sweeping, another day I would say it's TKT. But yeah, despite all the flaws that this Intervallo had, I think it is really good. It brings that unique tone that Limbus doesn't have in large amounts, but it still does. And Intervallo has tons of cute moments as well as some hype moments and aura. So yeah, I really liked it, personally. This is the end of me yapping, so I guess go subscribe to me, subscribe to Weiheng Gaming, leave a like, comment, do all the YouTube stuff, whatever, I don't care. Oh, actually, I do kind of care. On 5k subscribers, I will have something special, so wait for that. But for now, that is all from me. Bye-bye! Oh shit, I forgot to mention Zilu. Zilu is so cute. Oh my gosh, she's my new wife. Please marry me, Zilu.